Hello everyone and welcome back to Carvenus 14. Now, today we are going to be doing another Genshin Impact video, and once again we're going to be talking about our favorite maiden, Shenhe herself. Now, of course, this is probably like the 10th Shenhe video I've made on this channel now, and you're probably wondering, what have I got to say after all the Shenhe videos I've done? I've done physical DPS videos on her, I've done a build guide on her. One thing I haven't actually done is a team guide, but that is what today's video is about anyway. So yeah, I was running, as you guys could tell, I was running I was running this team, except instead of using Lisa, I was using Kaya. Now, you guys might be wondering, well, why am I suddenly using Lisa instead of Kaya now? Well, the reason being is because I've actually changed my artifact set that I'm using on Shenhe. Now, I had no qualms with the Shimenao's Reminiscence set, but it's just that I found out that this set is actually a pretty good option on Shenhe as well, and I started trying it out, and it was actually quite strong. Of course, in terms of damage, Shimenao's Reminiscence does actually deal more damage because of its ridiculously broken 4-set piece that it has. But this set, I just had better substats for it. So yeah, we'll take a look at this set now. So I'm running the new, well, not the new, but the Gladiators Finale set. Now, this set is both the easiest and the hardest set to actually farm for in the game. So, effectively, Gladiators Finale, right, does not actually have an artifact domain. You can only get this artifact through world bosses and weekly bosses. So as long as you're doing world bosses and weekly bosses, you will be able to get these artifacts. But they are obviously a lot more expensive than regular artifact domains, because in order to get these artifacts, you need to use 40 resin instead of 20 resin. So yeah, and there's also the fact that you can't use condensed resin on world bosses or weekly bosses. So yeah, these artifact sets are by far the hardest to farm, but they're also the easiest if you think about it, because as you progress through the game, you're going to need to level up your characters, and through that, you're going to need to be doing world bosses and weekly bosses, so you will obviously be doing those bosses in search of, you know, character materials and ascension materials and stuff. And off of that, you guys should get a few decent pieces. So honestly, it's not actually as terrible as people make it out to seem, but it's definitely not resin efficient, but it kind of is at the same time. It's like a love-hate relationship, really. Like, this set is, number one, the easiest to get, but also, number two, one of the hardest sets to get. Because you passively farm this set, but you can't really actively farm it, if you know what I mean. Like, if that kind of makes sense. So, yeah. Anyway, we're going to take a look at the pieces, guys, starting off with the flower. So yeah, as you guys know, I was running a 4-piece Shimenao's Reminiscence set before on Shenhe, and if you guys do remember, I had about 43% crit rate and 207% crit damage. So yeah, but we'll just take a look at the artifact set that we're running now. So we've got Gladiators Finale Feather, so I got a decent amount of crit damage here and a decent amount of crit rate here with attack percent, so that was quite nice. This flower rolled only once into energy recharge. The rest of it went into crit damage. So this is a this is a god tier feather, to be fair. Did I say flower before? I meant feather. This is a god tier feather. So that's really good. The timepiece, it's unfortunate that I had to change it from this godly timepiece, because it's the most power crept timepiece I actually have, if you guys remember this one. But this one honestly isn't too bad either. It's got 10% increased crit rate, or 10% crit rate, as well as energy recharge and crit damage, which it rolled twice into both of them. So yeah, honestly, it's actually not too bad of a roll. As for the goblet, well, I'm using this physical damage bonus goblet that I actually did get from the Shimenao's Reminiscence artifact domain, and it came with 7% crit rate and 24.1% crit damage. So again, a really nice amount of crit damage. And as for the helmet, well, this helmet is actually a decent helmet as well. I have 31.1% crit rate helmet with 11.7% crit damage, and it went into attack percent as well, which again isn't that bad for Shenhe, because, you know, attack percent is actually good on her. So well, for if you're going cryo DPS or support, it's good on her, but physical DPS not so much. But nonetheless, attack percent is actually not a bad stat to have anyway. So yeah, now that you guys have seen my pieces, you guys are probably wondering, how are my attributes looking? Well, number one, I am a little bit less tankier with 22,000 max HP instead of 23,000. As for attack, I have about 50 more attack Yeah, before I had 2,437, now I have 2,487, so a little bit more attack there, I guess. Defense, I think I'm about the same. Elemental Mastery is about 89, which is decent, and max stamina has always been 240. Now, as for the stats, I can actually say that I've actually gotten much better in terms of the actual stats. So, if you guys remember from the Shimenao's Reminiscence, have I been saying Shimenao's Reminiscence all this time? I'm actually quite sorry, guys. I didn't realize I was saying Shimenao's Reminiscence. I meant Echoes of an Offering. Sorry, yeah, the Echoes of an Offering set, basically. Yeah, so before, on the Echoes of an Offering set, I had 43% crit rate. Now, with this set, I have 63.7, so about 20% increase in crit rate, which is really, really good, right? Number one. And number two, with the Echoes of an Offering set, I had 207.2% crit damage, I think, something like that. But this set, I've got 206.3%. So, if you guys weigh the losses to the gains here, I've gained about 20% crit rate, but I've lost about 1% or 0.9% crit damage. I think that's worth in my book. I do think that's actually worth in my book. So, yeah. This is the set that we are currently running on Shenhe. In terms of energy recharge, 112.3%. In terms of physical damage bonus, it's still the same. So yeah, all in all, the stats for Shenhe are definitely better because I can actually crit more often now. And it also frees up a slot for my team, because before, I was using Kaya. Now, however, I can actually use a different character, and I am using Lisa. Now, you guys may be wondering, why on earth am I using Lisa? Well, simple. Number one, she's Electro, so she can provide Superconduct for my physical Shenhe. And pair that with Zhongli's Elemental Resistance Shred, it's really, really strong.
Osmanthus wine tastes the same as I remember. But where are those who share the memory?
Interesting. I didn't actually see that one coming. I didn't actually think that that would happen. But yeah, it turns out that Zhongli is actually Lisa, everyone, once upon a time. But yeah. Anyway, guys, so we're going back to the topic here. Now, number one, like I said, Lisa is Electro. So pair that with Shenhe's Cryo, Superconduct, which equals 40% decrease in resistance for, for physical resistance for anyone that's hit with the Superconduct actual reaction. But what else is really important? Number one, well, there's actually 4 reasons why I picked Lisa, right? The first one is obviously she's Electro, so Superconduct. The second reason is because of this passive talent right here. Opponents hit by Lightning Rose have their defense decreased by 15% for 10 seconds. Now, why is that good? Is because if you guys didn't know, resistance and defense are actually 2 different things. Resistances are, well, I don't really know how to explain them, but defense effectively lowers the tankiness or the tanking abilities of enemies or yourself, effectively, right? So, effectively, with this, enemies are going to be a lot less tankier. Resistances, I feel as though, are effectively the same thing, except resistances are specifically tailored towards one specific thing. So elemental resistances are obviously just for elements, and physical resistance is just for physical, right? However, defense decreases all, well, it doesn't decrease the, it doesn't decrease the resistances directly. What it does is it decreases the ability of the opponents to take and absorb damage, basically. Resistances work a little bit differently. I'm not really sure how to explain it. So yeah, but what effectively, resistances are specific, whereas defense is overall, so it reduces effectively the entire tanking abilities of a champion, or not champion, sorry, enemies. So yeah, basically defense is I wouldn't really say worth more than resistances. It's effectively like I said, defense is for everything, whereas resistances are for specific things. So yeah, now with this passive, Lisa is decreasing defense, so she's decreasing the entire enemy's capabilities of tanking my damage, basically. So that's why this is actually really, really strong. And in fact, just to let you know, Lisa is actually the only character in the game as of right now, as of patch 2.7. We are in 2.7, aren't we? Yeah. As of patch 2.7, Lisa is the only character that actually has a talent that reduces defense. Other characters like Raiden Shogun, I believe Razor also has a talent like that as well. I think, who else has one? I actually can't think of anyone else. But yeah, basically, like characters like Raiden Shogun and Razor, they both do have defense reduction constellations, but that's it, basically. They are through constellation, so you need to actually spend Primo Gems or money in order to actually get the actual constellations to decrease defenses. Whereas Lisa, all you really need to sacrifice is your Mora and your Hero's Wit. That is, or your, you know, your character experience. That's basically it, and as well as Ascension material, which is a lot cheaper in my mind than actually wasting your, not wasting, but spending your Primo Gems. So yeah, it's really, really good that Lisa has this as a passive talent. That's reason number 2. So reason number 1, guys, Superconduct. Reason number 2, this talent. Reason number 3, she's a catalyst user. Excuse me if my voice is going. But yeah, reason number 3, she's a catalyst user. And why is that important? Well, she can actually benefit from the use of Thrilling Tales of the Dragon Slayers. Now, if you guys don't know what this weapon is, it is the most broken 3-star weapon in the entire game, and is actually Barbara as well as Kokomi's best free-to-play weapon, because of what it actually does. Now, number 1, it gives you a huge meaty 35.2% increase in HP, which is actually a decent amount. The base attack is 401, which isn't too bad, but it's not amazing either, so it's kind of whatever. But the main important reason for this to actually be really good is because of, the passive. So the passive is called Heritage. When switching characters, the new character taking the field has their attack increased by 48% at Refinement Rank 5 for 10 seconds. This effect can only occur once every 20 seconds. So it is on a pretty long cooldown of 20 seconds, but the buff actually lasts for 10 seconds. So you'll only have like a 10-second downtime, which isn't actually too bad if you think about it, especially if you got especially if you pair this book up with other characters that can actually, help decrease the amount of, decrease the losses effectively of this weapon. So, yeah. But yeah, that is basically one of the reasons why Lisa is actually quite strong, because number 1, she's Electro. Number 2, because of that talent that she has. And number 3, because of her actual, the fact that she's a catalyst user, so she can actually utilize this weapon really, really well. Now, at Refinement Rank 1, it's 24% the buff. See this blue number here? It's 24%. But at Refinement Rank 5, which you should be able to get easily, because you get it through Wishing, you get it through Chest, you basically get it through Exploration as well as Gacha, really. So, yeah, you should be able to R5 this weapon really easily. And the 4th and final reason, guys, is actually to do with her burst. Now, if you guys didn't know, her burst, basically what it does is she puts a lightning rose into the air, and it has a pretty sizable AoE, to be fair, and any enemy within that AoE gets struck by lightning, effectively, or electro, right? There is one drawback to this ultimate, and it's the fact that, well, 2 drawbacks, but number 1 is the fact that it has an 80 energy cost, as you guys can see down here, right? Number 1. But number 2 is also the fact that it can only strike one enemy at a time. So I do believe it switches targets. I'm not sure if it electros one and then switches to another one, or if it constantly electros one until the duration is over or until they step out of the boundary. I'm not sure how it works properly, but yeah, you guys can tell, like, in mob situations, this might not be brilliant, but as you all know, Lisa's elemental skill, the huge one where she just, you know, where she just summons lightning and strikes everyone within her AoE. Oh, is it everyone, or is it up to... I think it's just 3 enemies. Yeah, within her AoE of her elemental skill, right? That actually does deal a decent amount of electro damage, as well as, you know... what is it called? What's it called? Applying electro, there we go. So, yeah. Now, you can see my talents are level 1, but I'm not upgrading my Lisa's talents, because the only reason I'm actually using Lisa is actually as a buffer to my Shenhe. So Lisa's own personal damage really doesn't matter that much to me. So yeah, I'm just using her as a buffer. And another strength, guys, that this ultimate is really good at is it can actually stay out on the field for a pretty long time, 15 seconds, which actually will bring us on to the next point. Well, technically it's conjoined with this one, but it is about her elemental burst. So yeah, but like I said, guys, there's only 2 real disadvantages to this ultimate. Number 1 it's an 80 energy cost, number one. And number two, it also, it also only strikes one enemy. Unless you have Constellation 2. Because if you have Constellation 2, I believe, actually, yeah, it, not that. Is it C4? It's C4, guys. Sorry, not C2, it's C4. So yeah, but her C4 basically increases the number of bolts released by lightning rose from 1 to 3, basically. So she can strike up to 3 enemies instead of 1. But it is her C4, so it will take a while to get there if you're actively pulling for Lisa. So, yeah. I only have a C1, as you guys can tell. But yeah, this talent is one reason why she's really strong. And conjoined with that, we get onto the artifact sets. Now, I am running Lisa with a 4-piece Noblesse Oblige. Because Noblesse Oblige, well, if you guys didn't know, is one of the best support sets in the game, alongside Tenacity of the Millilith, albeit Tenacity of the Millilith can only be used by a few certain number of people. Noblesse Oblige can basically be used by most people in the game. So, yeah. Now, the 2-piece obviously increases your burst damage by 20%, which is whatever with this build. I mean, it's good if you build Lisa as a support normally, but with this build, we're not really looking at Lisa's personal damage. We're looking to buff our Shenhe. And what is really good about this set is the 4-piece. Using an elemental burst increases all party members' attacks by 20% for 12 seconds. This effect cannot stack. So, the Noblesse Oblige set cannot stack on top of another Noblesse Oblige set, but it can stack with Tenacity of the Millilith, which is what we are running on the CEO of GEO, my main man, Mr. Zhongli himself. So it can stack with Zhongli's Tenacity of the Millilith. So yeah, that's another really good reason. So yeah. So effectively, guys, this is why Lisa is actually, a pretty good support for Superconduct teams, and she is actually quite underrated as a character. So yeah. But we'll go through the pieces just in case you guys want to see. So, crit damage and crit rate here. So, yeah, there's that. I was mainly trying to look for energy recharge subsets. I got a decent amount of energy recharge here and a decent amount of crit rate here. So, there's that. This one is a completely atrocious set, so don't look at it. But it's the only energy recharge timepiece I actually have. And I'm not really a huge fan of the Noblesse Oblige domain. So, yeah, we'll just leave it at that. As for Goblet, we have this Electro Damage Bonus Goblet, which has 14% crit rate and 11% crit damage. And then as for the the helmet, we have a crit rate helmet with energy recharge. So yeah, there's a decent amount of energy recharge there. But yeah, that guys is the stats, and that is effectively the entire team. So basically, if we want to go through all the buffs of the team, we've got Shenhe, who is going to be doing the damage. We've got Lisa, who is going to be providing number 1, Superconduct, number 2, Defense Shred, number 3, Thrilling Tales of the Dragon Slayer buff, and number 4, Noblesse Oblige 4-piece. So she's giving us 4 buffs, effectively, to Shenhe's personal damage. Yeah. As for Zhongli, well, his shield is actually really good, because what his shield does is it decreases, where is it? Yeah, it decreases elemental and physical resistance of opponents within a small AoE. And trust me, guys, this small AoE, as they quote-unquote put it, is not small at all. It's actually a pretty decent size. If anything, I think it's like the size of Lisa's burst, or a little bit bigger than that, something like that. So it's pretty huge. Yeah. So Zhongli is providing us physical resistance shred, as well as a tanky shield, which I did crown because at one point I was DPSing him, if you guys knew me from way back then. So yeah. Is that all? And then, yeah, obviously, well, we are running a Tenacity of the Millilith set on him, which is literally just specified towards HP. I mean, I got decent pieces here, crit rate, crit damage here, with a lot of attack, to be fair, so that's not bad. Crit rate, crit damage here, with a decent amount of flat HP, I guess. Crit rate here with HP Sans. This one was also crit rate with HP Sans as well, crit rate, crit damage, a decent amount of both, actually. And then this is another HP percent helmet with crit rate and energy recharge. So all in all, not too bad. And then as for Yunjin, well, if you guys didn't know, I am running, well, it's pretty obvious by now, I'm running the Geo Resonance, because the Geo Resonance is actually really strong. Number 1, it increases your damage dealt by 15%, which is actually damage dealt is actually different from increasing your attack straight up, because what damage dealt will actually do is, I believe it scales off of many things instead of just your attack. Your attack obviously will only boost your attack, but your damage dealt scales with your, obviously, your attack percent, it scales with your crit damage, it scales with your normal attack multipliers, scales with your charge attack multipliers, plunging attack multipliers, your elemental skill, your elemental burst multipliers, all that stuff. So it's really, really strong in that regard. And obviously, what is it? Yunjin also provides the entire party with a buff with, so Flying Cloud Flag Formation, when normal attack damage is dealt to opponents, bonus damage will be dealt based on Yunjin's current defense. And that damage increase is based off of 45% of Yunjin's defense right now. So I only have about 1,897, so 1,900 defense, which is actually not a bad number, considering that there's literally no polearm in the game that actually gives you defense, apart from Deathmatch, but obviously I'm free to play, so I don't actually have it. The weapon I'm using instead is the Contained Cross Spear, because it increases her elemental skill damage, and it gives her a little bit of extra energy particles afterwards. So yeah. As for the artifact sets, I'm running 4-piece Husk of Opulent Dreams because it's her best in slot. Yeah, so obviously not brilliant sets here, but we are just going for defense. This one rolled into defense percent quite a bit. This one did not roll into defense percent. This is a defense percent main stat, and it rolled into flat HP, unfortunately, quite a bit. This one was also another one which rolled into energy recharge, so that's not bad. And then this one's defense percent, which actually comes with a good amount of crit rate and crit damage as well. So yeah. Anyway, guys, that is effectively my team. So we'll run through the entire team buffs again, right? So we've got Shenhe, who's dealing damage, obviously. Lisa, who is going to be providing Superconduct, Defense Shred, Thrilling Tales of the Dragon Slayer buff, as well as Noblesse Oblige. So yeah, that's 4 buffs from her. Then Zhongli, obviously, Physical Resistance Shred, and then his Tenacity of the Millilith attack boost. And then Yunjin is going to be there for normal attack increase boost, like normal attack buff increase, as well as the Geo Resonance. So yeah, without further ado, guys, I've wasted everyone's time by talking about meaningless stuff. Well, slightly meaningless stuff. So now we have got to go and test this out on our favorite man, Masanori. As you can see here, I've already increased everyone's, gotten everyone's elemental burst up. Also, guys, yeah, just to let you know, if you guys did forget, Shenhe's elemental burst actually decreases both, what's it called? Where is it? Yeah, it decreases both physical as well as, elemental resistance. So, yeah, by 15%. So it's actually a decent amount. I mean, at level 10, it's 15%. I believe at level 1, it's like 10% still. So, yeah, and I think it only starts increasing when you get to, like, level 6 and beyond. So, yeah, it's a little bit annoying that, you know, you have to kind of level up all the way up to that point in order to get her elemental skill to a decent level. But it is what it is. I mean, what can I say? It's not really a problem for me because I was going to triple crown her anyway. So, yeah. Now, let us see if this is actually doing better than the Shimenao's Reminiscence set. So, just to let you guys know, the Shimenao's Reminiscence set was averaging, well, I mean, the light attacks were doing about just over 10,000, right? The medium attacks were doing around 15, 16,000, and the heavy attacks were doing like 20-odd thousand or something like that. So, yeah, we'll see. At least I will, and if you guys do want to see the Shimenao's Reminiscence build, I will link to that in the description below, and we'll see mainly how well this team actually works with Shenhe. So, yeah. For this build, you can really put it on anyone and it will work really, because it's not just exclusive to Shenhe, but because you can actually make this team work for any main DPS, any physical main DPS that is. So, yeah. Alright, let's go. Right, so let's put everything on. This is order. Right. 1. That's done. That's done. That's done. And the normal butt here. Oh my. Oh my. Oh, 27! Somebody please get this recorded. Oh my god. What is this?
Take your true form.
Okay, my shield may have died, but you know what?
Solidify.
Guys, I think this is slightly ridiculous, not gonna lie. I would think so.
My will embodied.
actually not hitting that. She's not soft either. Wow, okay, that is slightly... Do you see there, guys? I was hitting for 27,000. I can confirm that Shimenao's Reminiscence, my previous set, was not hitting that hard. Of course, I was running a different team, albeit, and if I was running the exact same team with Shimenao's Reminiscence, I would probably be hitting much, much harder. But obviously, I swapped the set out because I didn't really like the fact that I wasn't critting a lot. And of course, there is another drawback where Shimenao's Reminiscence... not Shimenao's... I meant Echoes of an Offering. I'm sorry, everyone. I'm sorry, please. Do not take the annoyance out of me, please. I'm sorry, all right? Echoes of an Offering, okay? So Echoes of an Offering, right, is a good set, don't get me wrong, and it's really, really good, the 4-piece, but the thing is it's RNG based, and yeah, the rates do build up, but sometimes if your crit rate isn't really that good, like my one, which was 43%, there are some instances where you may actually crit, and some instances where you may not crit, and then of course there's also instances where if you do crit, you may actually hit the actual passive, the Valley Right passive, and deal a ridiculous amount of damage, or there's the chance where you don't actually hit it, even if you do crit, and your damage will basically be regular. So it's a bit inconsistent, whereas the the Gladiators Finale set is actually pretty consistent. So yeah, honestly, I think whether this set is better than Shimenao's Reminiscence, I don't actually know. I wouldn't say it's better, but it depends on your crit rate ratios, really. Anyway, guys, the main thing here is, number one, stop looking at her. Look at me, Shenhe. All right, stare into mine eyes. Okay, so yeah. Basically, guys, moral of the story is, don't go for the artifact sets, just go for the artifact, stats, right? If you've got better artifact stats in one place, then do what, then obviously go with that one. If you had to prioritize substats or stats over sets, definitely do that. Substats and sets are just much better than actual sets themselves. So, yeah. Anyway, guys, that's basically been this video. I have been Carvenus14 and still am. So yeah, anyway, this video has effectively just been about, a really strong physical DPS build that you guys should be utilizing. And effectively, it was a big up Lisa video because, Lisa just does not get as much love as she used to back in 1.1. I mean, obviously, we all love Lisa for obvious various reasons. So, yeah, but, she just doesn't really see a lot of playtime other than, a lot of people, just not a lot of people, but a few people out there just DPSing her. But honestly, really sorry, really solid character. That's what I was meant to say. So yeah. Anyway, guys, I have been Carvenus14 and still am, and I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your day. I will see you all very, very soon. Goodbye.